So the U.S. has a long history of toppling foreign leaders that we don't like, and this can take many different forms, such as regime change wars, think Saddam Hussein in Iraq, or backing coups against the leaders, I think Evo Morales in Bolivia. And so there's a long history of this, and basically here Anna Kasparian sums up how the US does this in often with very hypocritical intentions. The arguments that are made to the public are almost never the actual reasons as to why we're engaging in these regime change wars or toppling these leaders. And so I'm going to play the clip. I'm going to play it about 1.25 speed just because it's about a minute 30 clip, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it
this in greater detail, but if you look at what motivated the United States to invade Afghanistan, it really wasn't 9/11. It really wasn't that terrorist attack on our own country. There were other material incentives involved. And whenever you hear about the United States toppling a regime, it's always presented to the American public under this guise of spreading democracy or protecting a democracy, protecting civil rights, civil liberties, I should say. But in reality, what's at play is a country that has its own issues with human rights, using this accusation against other countries to justify their invasion, right? So the United States has its own issues. We have a civil uprising right now in the country because of those issues. And so do we want some other country to invade us because of the way, policing happens in this country? Of course we don't. We believe that we can change it ourselves. We don't want to be invaded. So what makes the United States think that it's acceptable to invade a country, kill countless civilians, which we've done in the Middle East, which we're currently engaging in with the war in Yemen? Like, how is that going to help a country prosper or become more quote unquote democratic?
So, I think that there are a couple different angles that you can talk about this. And just to kind of put this conversation in context, they're referring to basically what sparked this was, obviously in Venezuela right now, we have backed multiple coups against Maduro. The U.S. has Juan Guaido, who is the leader that the U.S. and a number of other nations are basically backing as, like, who should be in charge of Venezuela. But, he's not. Maduro is in charge. And the U.S. has backed a number of coups. Recently, there was one, and it just was very unsuccessful. All of them have been unsuccessful, but it just doesn't make sense. And here's the thing is a lot of people in Venezuela, while they don't like Maduro necessarily, they don't want the US to put in their own leader. They're like, we want to change this ourselves for the exact reasons that Anna Kasparian said. Like, we have problems going on in this country. There are literal protests going on right now. I don't think that we would like it very much if, Russia decided, all right, well, we'll just give them a new leader. Like, we wouldn't want that. It's like, no, we'll handle this on our own. And it's not like there aren't arguments that other countries could make as to why they would do it to the US. Donald Trump, look at him. He got less votes. He literally got less votes than Hillary Clinton, yet he took power. Like, oh, that's undemocratic. There's literally a large portion of people, half the people on, CNN, MSNBC saying, oh, the president didn't actually win. He got foreign help. How could another country not use that as justification to invade or to back a coup against our leader? But of course we would think that that's absurd. Like, we don't want that. And that exact same argument goes for all the other countries that we do this to. And the thing is because you can find an opposition to literally any leader ever. There's always going to be people dissenting, and there's going to be protests, and there's going to be people that don't like certain things. And so when they say that, when you hear politicians go on TV and say, like, oh, obviously the leaders, this person is unsupported, Maduro is unsupported, such and such is unsupported, Evo Morales is unsupported, all these different people, it's like, that's, you could say that about the U.S. That doesn't mean we have the right. And also, obviously, there's the obvious thing of, like, the U.S. doesn't have the right to, like, decide who is the leader of other countries. That's not our place. Like, we are not just the supreme rulers of the world, and we decide, Venezuela, it's time for you guys to have a new leader. Iraq, Saddam Hussein, no longer. It doesn't work like that. It shouldn't work like that. And also, it's always so hypocritical, the idea that we're doing this to, like, instill democracy, when the U.S. supports the majority of the world's dictatorships. Think about our relationship with Saudi Arabia. That's not a democracy, but we are very, very involved with them, and a number of other different countries. And so, there's just so much hypocrisy involved in this. And so, while you can be an opponent of what Maduro is doing, I do not like what Maduro is doing. That does not mean that I back a coup against Maduro, because that is not what the U.S. should be doing. The U.S. should not be toppling foreign leaders. And we have such a long history, and not always even dictators, like people that are Democrat. Salvador Allende was a democratically elected leader of Chile, and the U.S. backed a coup against him. And there's someone who won an election, and we still backed it. So it's not even just dictators. And so there's such a long history of this, such a problematic and hypocritical history, and it's just something that we have to keep our eyes open, is that these arguments that are made and they'll always make, human rights abuse arguments and everything. And I mean, what's stopping another country from saying like, oh, the U.S. has the largest percentage of people incarcerated than anywhere else in the world? I mean, that's a human right abuse. I think I certainly think it is. We should not have as many people incarcerated as we do. So there are arguments that you can make, and I'm obviously not conflating like the number of people we have incarcerated with like things that happen in other countries. But what I am saying is that there always is going to be those arguments, and the answer is never, oh, let's go invade them. And so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you disagree with anything I say, or if I got anything wrong, please leave a comment down below. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.